The broken keychain I found in her bag was a gift from the guy she's been hiding. I didn't mean to go through her bag. Honestly, I didn't. But she had asked me to grab her keys, and as I pulled open the zipper, my eyes landed on a small, silver keychain tucked into the side pocket. It wasn't hers. I'd seen her keychain before, some little leather thing we picked out together on our trip to Mexico last year. This was something different, something I didn't recognize. It was a small metal bear, maybe an inch tall, with a tiny crack in its side, almost like it had been dropped and broken but glued back together. I don't know why it stood out to me, but it did. There was something about it that didn't feel right. I turned it over in my fingers, and that's when I saw it. A small engraving on the back. Just a few words, so faint I could barely read them. To my favorite girl, love, always, Jay. My stomach dropped. The J was all I needed. Jason, her co-worker. The guy who'd been creeping around the edges of our relationship for months now. I never met him in person, but I knew enough. She talked about him all the time. How funny he was, how easy it was to talk to him, how much they had in common. I wasn't stupid. I knew something was off, but I'd pushed it down because I didn't want to be that guy. The one who was paranoid, the one who accused his girlfriend of things without proof. But this wasn't nothing. My hand was shaking now, and I quickly shoved the keychain back into the pocket, as if somehow doing that would undo what I'd just seen. I had to pull myself together. I couldn't act on this, not yet. I needed answers, but I wasn't going to get them by jumping to conclusions. I needed to think. She came into the room just then, calling my name, and I felt like I had been caught in the middle of something I wasn't prepared for. My heart was pounding so hard I thought she could hear it. "Hey babe, you okay?" Her voice was light, casual. She hadn't noticed anything, didn't see the panic in my eyes. I looked at her, trying to mask the wave of anger and hurt crashing over me. I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. I wasn't sure I was ready at all. Yeah, I said, forcing a smile. My throat was dry. Just, looking for your keys. "Oh, I put them in my jacket pocket," she said, glancing around. "Thanks for grabbing them, though. You know how I am with losing stuff." I nodded and handed her the bag, avoiding her gaze. I should have said something. I should have demanded answers, confronted her right then and there. But I didn't. Instead, I just stood there, a cold, tight feeling settling in my chest as I tried to figure out how to process what I just learned. It had been a Saturday when we met 2 years ago. I remember everything about that day, how we laughed over coffee, how the sun seemed to shine a little brighter when she smiled. I never thought anything would tear us apart. I trusted her, and that was the worst part, knowing that while I was trusting her, she was hiding something. She had this whole other life that I wasn't a part of. It's funny how quickly trust can feel like something fragile, like glass just waiting to shatter. I noticed the changes in her behavior, of course. There had been little things. She was more distant, less affectionate, always too tired or busy with work. But I convinced myself it was nothing. We'd been through a lot together. I told myself it was just stress or maybe a phase. I mean, how could I not? When you love someone, you don't want to see the cracks in the foundation. You try to patch them up with whatever you can, promises, hope, excuses. And for a while, that worked. But now it felt like the cracks were too big to ignore. I spent the next few hours trying to act normal, but I couldn't. I couldn't shake the image of the keychain, couldn't stop thinking about Jason and how he had engraved it for her. I wanted to scream, to throw it all in her face and demand to know what had been going on. But I couldn't. I was paralyzed, stuck in this awful limbo where I didn't know whether I was overreacting or whether I'd just uncovered the truth about something that had been building for months. Finally, when the evening came and we sat down to eat dinner, I couldn't do it anymore. I had to ask. The tension between us was unbearable. Who's Jason? The question was out before I could stop it. I saw her face fall, her fork pausing halfway to her mouth, and for a moment, it felt like time froze. "Jason." She repeated it like she didn't know what I was talking about. She set the fork down slowly. "What do you mean?" "I mean the keychain. The one in your bag. It's from him, isn't it?" I couldn't keep the bitterness out of my voice. I didn't want to sound accusatory, but I couldn't help it. This was betrayal. I could feel it in my bones. Her eyes darted around, looking for an escape, like she was searching for the right words to pull her out of this mess. But there were no right words, only the truth. She stopped herself, her hand shaking as she reached for her water. It's not what you think. I waited, watching her, waiting for her to say something that made sense, that could explain this away. But she didn't. She just looked down at her plate, clearly struggling with how to answer. And the silence between us stretched longer and longer until it felt like a heavy weight in the room. Finally, she spoke again. He's just a friend. He's been helping me with some stuff at work. That's all. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner, but it was nothing. Just nothing. I didn't buy it. Not for a second. Nothing? Then why the keychain, Jenna? My voice was barely a whisper now, because I didn't want to hear the answer. I didn't want to know, but I had to know. Why the engraving? Why hide it? She squeezed her eyes shut, and when she opened them again, there were tears. I could tell she was going to try and make me believe her, but I couldn't let her. Not this time. Okay, she said, finally taking a shaky breath. Okay, it's not just a friendship. It's more than that. I've been seeing him. She looked up at me, her expression pleading. I'm so sorry. I didn't want you to find out like this, but I don't know what else to say. I felt the world shift under me. So it's true. I didn't know what to say. I couldn't breathe. I felt like I was going to suffocate. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. She had been seeing someone else. I thought we were happy. I thought we were solid. I thought we had something that was real. But apparently, I was wrong. I didn't mean for it to happen, she continued, her voice desperate. It just did. I didn't want to hurt you, but I wasn't happy. And I don't know how to explain it, but Jason, he made me feel seen again. He's been there for me in ways that I didn't realize I needed. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the floor. My hands were shaking as I pushed my plate away. You've been seeing him, but you couldn't tell me? You couldn't be honest with me? The words sounded hollow, even to me. I was still reeling. How long? She didn't answer right away. I could see the guilt written all over her face. A few months, she whispered. A few months, I repeated. My voice was so quiet, so broken, it almost didn't sound like me anymore. And just like that, everything we had built came crumbling down. Part 2. I don't remember how the rest of that night went. I know I grabbed my jacket and left the apartment, but I wasn't sure where I was going. I just needed to get out. I needed to be somewhere that didn't feel like the place I thought I was going to build my life. I ended up walking through the city, the streets lit up by streetlights that seemed so indifferent to everything that was happening in my head. Everything felt surreal, like I was floating outside of my own body, watching myself move through the world as if I weren't really part of it anymore. It was almost midnight when I found myself standing outside a bar, staring through the glass at the people inside. I didn't know what I was hoping for. I wasn't in the mood for company, but I needed something to distract me from the whirling mess in my mind. The thought of Jason, the keychain, and Jenna's tear-streaked face kept flashing in front of me, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't escape it. I decided to walk in. Maybe I thought the noise and the clinking of glasses would drown out my thoughts. I didn't want to be alone with them anymore. I took a seat at the bar, ordered a whiskey, and just stared at the amber liquid. The warmth of the alcohol didn't help. Nothing felt like it could dull the sharp edge of betrayal. The bartender didn't say much, probably figuring I wasn't in the mood for small talk, and I appreciated that. My phone buzzed on the bar in front of me, and I saw Jenna's name flash across the screen. I ignored it. I knew what she was going to say. She was probably begging me to come back, asking for another chance, telling me she was sorry. But I wasn't ready for her apologies. I didn't know if I ever would be. The thing about betrayal is that it doesn't feel like something you can just get over. It doesn't feel like something that fades with time. The more I thought about what had happened, about what she'd done, the more I realized how much trust I'd placed in her, how much I had believed in us. And now, all of that was a lie. She wasn't who I thought she was. She wasn't the girl I fell in love with. After a few drinks, I got a text from Rachel, a friend of mine who I hadn't seen in a while. She'd been messaging me about catching up, and I figured I might as well meet her. I wasn't in the mood to talk about what had happened, but I needed some distraction. I needed to talk to someone who wasn't involved in this mess. I met Rachel at a nearby cafe, and for the first time in hours, I felt my shoulders relax a little. Rachel's energy was warm, comforting, everything that felt like it was missing in my life right now. She didn't ask any questions when I sat down, sensing immediately that I wasn't in the mood to share. But after a few minutes of casual conversation, she turned to me, her gaze a little more serious than usual. "So, what's going on with you?" she asked, leaning forward, her eyes scanning my face. "You look like you've been through the ringer." I swallowed, and suddenly I felt a lump in my throat. I hadn't planned on talking about Jenna, but here I was sitting across from Rachel, the words spilling out of me without warning. "She's been seeing someone else," I said, almost in a whisper, and I saw Rachel's eyes widen as I said it. "I found a keychain in her bag. One that wasn't mine, with an engraving from some guy named Jason." I explained everything, the growing distance between me and Jenna, the time I'd caught her in the bathroom, the broken keychain that had been the tipping point. Rachel didn't interrupt, but I could see the empathy in her eyes. She reached out and placed a hand over mine. "Jesus, I had no idea. I'm so sorry. You didn't deserve that." "I don't know what to do," I muttered, shaking my head. "I just feel so dumb. How'd I not see it? How'd I not realize something was wrong?" Rachel squeezed my hand, her voice soft but firm. "You don't see it when you trust someone. That's the thing. You're not dumb for trusting her. You're not stupid for thinking everything was fine. It's just the way it happens. It's messy." I nodded, grateful for her understanding. It felt like the first time all night I wasn't so alone in this. But the reality of it was still there, heavy and suffocating. Jenna had betrayed me, and as much as I wanted to believe it was some kind of mistake or misunderstanding, I knew deep down that it wasn't. She had been seeing him. She had let that happen, and that hurt more than anything. I stayed with Rachel for a couple of hours, talking, drinking coffee, and trying to get my mind off things. But the whole time my phone sat in my pocket, buzzing every so often with texts from Jenna. I couldn't bring myself to open them. I knew she was probably pleading with me to come back, to give her another chance. I didn't know what I was supposed to do. Could I forgive her? Could I go back to the person I thought she was, knowing what I knew now? By the time I left Rachel, it was nearing 3 a.m., and I was exhausted, but my mind was still racing. I decided to go back to the apartment, but as I pulled up to the building, I hesitated. I didn't want to see her. I didn't want to face her. Not yet. I wasn't sure I ever would be ready to face her. But when I walked inside, she was there, sitting on the couch, her head in her hands. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying for hours. "Please, can we talk?" she asked, her voice raw. I didn't say anything at first. I just stood in the doorway, staring at her. This woman, the one I had built my life with, was sitting there, broken, and it felt like a knife to my chest. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just numb. "I don't know what to say, Jenna," I said finally, my voice hoarse. "I don't know if I can forgive you. I don't even know if I want to try." Her face crumpled, and she reached for me. "Please don't leave me. Please don't leave us. I'm so sorry. I don't know what else to say, but I swear I didn't mean for any of this to happen." I took a deep breath, staring at her outstretched hand, and in that moment I realized something. The relationship I thought we had was gone. Maybe it was gone a long time ago, and I was just too blind to see it. "I don't know if I can stay, Jenna," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know if I could trust you again." And for the first time that night, I didn't know what came next.